forward. Maybe they're fatherless. These are for those today whose fathers have been a deadbeat or dead and gone. You can testify that even when daddy didn't show up for me, I had another daddy that sits high and looks lower. In fact, can I tell y'all about my daddy? My daddy is rich in houses and land, and he holds the world in the palm of his hand. I'll never be broke another day in my life. Would you look at somebody and tell them, because I possess the world and the keys of life, because I got a daddy. All right, cool. You can't shout over being a mother for the motherless if you still got a mama. And you can't shout over being a father for the fatherless if you still got a father. But maybe I'll find somebody who can shout over the fact that he'll be a bill payer even when you ain't got no money. You ever experienced, this ain't for my bad and bougie folk, this for those of us who can testify. Baby, I didn't know when I was going to walk in my house and the lights be cut off. I didn't know what day I was going to walk out and see the car gone. But I'm grateful that no matter what has happened, I can testify God will provide my every need. Brothers and sisters, you do not know God until you ran into the situation where you needed God. Y'all scared me, so let me just ask for my own sanity. Have you ever needed God? And has he ever been what you needed to be? He's the I am. I'm trying to see if I got anybody can testify. God ain't just been God. God has been everything I can imagine, think, or desire. You do not know God until you have read God. You know God's nature. And when you learn his nature, you'll learn his name. In fact, ask your neighbor, disturb him, tell him you're going to learn something today. Ask him these words: do you know his name? And such is the case in Exodus chapter 17. Exodus chapter 17 is written by this famous prophet who is a Jewish prophet named Moses. He is a Jewish prophet. His name is Moses. Moses decides to write Exodus. Y'all ready to go back to the Masons? He decides to write Exodus in a moment to give us elaboration about those who are God's chosen designation. You missed it. Let me go back and try. He is giving us Exodus, and in Exodus he begins to write and elaborate that then on the life of those who God has chosen as his chosen designates, whose name is Israel. And while he is writing on behalf of Israel, he is giving us elaboration on the designation, because he wants to talk about what Exodus really means when they experience liberation and emancipation. Preach, boy, you're doing the best you can. I said he is giving us the stance, Sister Nan, to see him speak in elaboration about those who God has chosen as designation, who are experiencing what's called liberation and emancipation. Okay, cool. I'll come back and get you. You look lost. What I'm trying to tell you is Moses writes to tell you and I about the children of Israel, and the children of Israel have a study and a story, because when you look up the name Exodus, it literally means to come out of, which means that whenever you read Exodus, you are experiencing an elaboration about the designation of those that God has let experience liberation through emancipation. Let me come back and get you. You know, emancipation is a historical word that you and I know, that when we were in slavery, I'm preaching real good for the third Sunday in April. He was those who that when we were in slavery, we need to be what is called emancipated. And so God uses Moses to go get the children of Israel to allow them to experience liberation. And while they're experiencing liberation, my Bible tells me Moses has been assigned to go down Y'all know the story. And tell Pharaoh, let my people go. You know, because Moses does stuff. He has to go tell them, let my people go. And now, grandmama, that they're experiencing liberation through emancipation, trying to get to their destination, they ran into a situation. Man, I'm preaching so good in here on a Sunday. I said they've experienced, and in the midst of trying to get to their destination, they found themselves in a situation. You know the situation, Brother Walker. It's when the Pharaoh and his army are behind the children of Israel, and they've stumbled up on a Red Sea. Got to a Red Sea, and Pharaoh is behind them. The Red Sea is in front of them. They are in between what you and I would call a rock. Have you ever experienced a rock in a hard place? I mean, a place where your back was up against the wall. The destination was in view, but you couldn't cross. The enemy was behind you, and you almost turned around. They are in between a rock. They faced this situation. In the midst of facing this situation, your Bible reads, my Bible reads, if you ain't tore it out, because I know I didn't, that Moses lifts up a rod and the sea spreads apart and wet land turns into dry ground, and they made a sidewalk right on to the destination. I don't know who in here needs to hear this, but this is the season God is going to allow you to get to a tough spot and make it easy for you to get across. I don't know who you are, but whoever you are, you're in a tough situation right now, and God's prophetic proclamation is, if you just stay there and just hold up your rod, I'll spread it. I don't mean to tell this, but I'm going to tell it since I got the mic. I remember I told y'all a while ago I made it to a year pastor in this church. Deacon Charles Williams had a conversation with me one day. I told it to you before, but I'll say it again because it makes sense here. I remember Deacon Charles Williams says, hey, pastor, when we was looking for pastors, he says, you did not fit the age qualification. He says, they wanted somebody 50, and here you were 28. He says, but in the midst of all you did, we don't really know how you got here besides the folks who decided to vote. Whoever you was voted, I appreciate you. Thank you for your little vote. But I want to tell you the truth, that when I stayed prayed up and I kept my rod up, God says that whatever is yours, it's already yours. Can I tell you something? What God has for you, I know you just touch somebody and tell them, baby, it's mine. Don't you worry about a thing. It's mine, all mine. God has a way of making tight situations smooth. And they walked across, still headed to their destination. And in the midst of heading to your destination, y'all still with me? I'm talking about the folks who just experienced liberation through emancipation. They were God's chosen designation. Got to the Red Sea and was experiencing another situation. Now they done crossed, still headed to their destination, and watch this, they done found out, Marcia, that they got some more complications. Exodus chapter 17 introduces us to the point you and I can tell the story on, and that is this, they have finally made it from their oppressor. And they have entered into this place, and they have run into, Brother Walker, another complication. They just got out of slavery, just made it through the situation at the Red Sea. And soon as they get across the Red Sea, they got another complication. Let me help some saved person who's struggling with what salvation looks like. That being God's chosen people never allows you or eliminates you from having to go through situation after complication, because the true reality is you will never be able to have identification of who your God is if you are never in need. Brothers and sisters, you missed it. What I'm trying to tell you is that you can't testify to the name of your God unless you experience the nature of your God, and you don't experience the nature of your God until you're in need of your God. That's why some folks shout when they hear the name Jesus. That's why they shout when they hear the name God, because they know God raised him up. Help me preach this sermon. And they've made it to complication. Well, here's the problem. While they're experiencing complication, in this new complication, grandmama, they are in a place that's called a new habitation. I said they moved to liberation through emancipation. Got to the point where they're God's chosen designation, gets to a Red Sea, they got a situation, crosses the Red Sea, they're dealing with complications, all in a new habitation. And while they're dealing with this complication and new habitation, guess what happens, Chanel? They end up frustration. They end up with frustration because they've got complication in their new habitation after they just can't do their situation, being freed from liberation through emancipation, and yet they are supposed to be God's chosen designation. My soul already happy now. And the problems arise in Exodus 17. They're in new habitation, and they face complication. Well, what is the complication? The complication is, Brother Walker, watch this, they're about to experience dehydration. I'm in your Bible. I'm in your Bible. These are the folks who have experienced liberation through emancipation. God has chosen them as designation. They've found themselves in complication with frustration, all because they're about to experience dehydration. They're in a desert. But this wasn't just any kind of desert. When you look up that word Rephidim, this is why we can shout over this desert place, because in its original language, it is not just Rephidim, but watch this, DJ, it is a place of an oasis.